The 6-3 Supreme Court decision in Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization has rocked the nation. Whether one celebrates the decision or if one believes, as does County Executive Mark Elrich, that this is a dark day for our country. Nancy, President Biden said that it's a sad day for the court and for the country. Today, the Supreme Court expressly took away a constitutional right from American people that it had already recognized. What's your reaction to this momentous decision?
Well, I suppose the good news is that we knew it was coming. So I think we're, as a community, prepared for this. It's disappointing. I mean, this is a really big week for the court. They've toppled a variety of assumptions about our community. But the right to abortion issue, of course, they've not eliminated the controversy. They've just increased it. And I suppose the good news I heard is that all the appointments for vasectomies have been taken up in Arkansas. It's disappointing. I think it's going to force people to take more responsibility for themselves if that actually is the issue. I've never viewed abortion as something that anyone wanted to do. It's a last minute decision when everything else fails. And so to take that away from people is going to be a problem. And it's not going to eliminate abortion. I don't know what they're smoking. People are just going to go elsewhere. And so it's a sad situation. Look, I was 22 when Roe v. Wade was decided. I knew lots of people who went to different states for abortions. They didn't plan to get pregnant. They weren't in a situation to afford to be a parent. Now that world hasn't changed that much. And so, abortions are going to continue. Let's hope they're not done in back rooms. Let's hope that if they have to be done, they're done safely. Maybe more people will get vasectomies and contraceptive use will increase. I hope that's true always. But it is a disappointment to people. I have to say, what's also interesting, if you look at Clarence Thomas's concurring opinion, the whole issue of personal privacy is on the table. I don't think there's any question about that, regardless of what the other justices say. So, I think changes are coming.
Well, none of the other justices signed on to that concurrence, Nancy. So we have to wait and see. Mark, in the majority opinion, Justice Alito seemed to have three central theses. First, that the inescapable conclusion is that the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history, tradition, or the Constitution. Second, that the supporters of Roe v. Wade ignored the life question and instead imposed on all states the same arbitrary point, latent pregnancy, when a fetus has the most basic human rights to live. And third, that it's time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives, concluding that the Constitution does not prevent the citizens of each state from regulating or permitting or prohibiting abortions. What's your reaction?
Well, I think the third point is perhaps of those three the most important, which is that abortion is going forward be treated as a political question, one where elected officials in the various states and potentially federal government, but in the various states will decide what the rules are, and that will mean that we will have a variety of different statutes around the country. I think one of the problems with the fact that for the last 50 years this has been subject to courts is that the consensus that might have emerged about what are very difficult, as Nancy mentioned, very difficult sets of choices, the balance of the rights of a mother or a woman and those of fetus. We've never been able to resolve that because we had the courts kind of to look to be the arbiter. I think there's much more of a consensus, and I think that will evolve more. That is a consensus between what are sometimes very extreme views on, say, late-term abortion and on sort of the efforts on some people to criminalize women who are pregnant and have a medical procedure. So I think that's really what the focus is it gives us an opportunity to let our Democratic representatives do what they do best and work these problems out.
So Nancy, when the draft opinion was leaked about 8 weeks ago, we noted on this program at the time that Maryland had legalized abortion up to the point of viability back as far back as 1992, when there was a ballot initiative. And it was suggested that viability is around 24 weeks. Well, that was the crux of the Dobbs case and other cases, which are the so-called fetal heartbeat cases, where they now believe viability is around 15 weeks. So are we going to see any change in the Maryland law as a consequence of Dobbs?
I don't know. I suppose there might be an effort to eliminate viability standards altogether. I think Maryland would only go further, I think, to extend the right than many places. So I think that's the only likelihood, and I'm not sure that people are going to have the gumption for. No, they probably will, just to make this statement. But that would have to go through a whole constitutional amendment process, and that's a big thing and very difficult to do. Costly, takes a long time, and we shall see. I think that's possible. I think people in Maryland are pretty comfortable with the existing rules and are glad they live here compared to some of the other states. Remember, the Mississippi case established viability at 15 weeks, I think 15 weeks, something like that. But they agreed that it was otherwise permissible. And the question is, are some states are going to go and take away that option altogether? They're doing it now, and others will. It's going to be a mishmash, which just makes it more complicated for people in the situation that they find themselves in to figure out what the right solution is and where they have to go. I don't know. It's going to be a mess. There's no question about that.
Let's talk about the political ramifications. Some of the early polls that have come out suggest that inflation and the cost of living is still more important than abortion. So are we going to see, what's the impact of Dobbs next November?
I think the political impact may not be as evident this year, but I do kind of caution that, again, as I referenced, this consensus process is kind of pulling together with a variety of different views. I think outliers from both sides will be punished down the road if people don't try and find a common ground in individual states.